Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Deep in the night, Duanling Tian hugged the two girls and fell into a deep slumber. Crackle! A burst of noise entered his ears. Duanling Tian's spiritual force shook, and he instantly jolted awake. In next to no time, Duanling Tian noticed that the entire courtyard had been lit ablaze. Who? Meanwhile, Duanling Tian heard Xiong Quan's explosive shout, then the sound of him breaking through the door and dashing out. Ku Er and Li Fei both heard the noise and jolted awake. The three of them got dressed, then walked out of their rooms and noticed that Li Ro had come out as well. Tian, are all of you okay? Li Ro looked at Duanling Tian and the girls and asked with deep concern. Although the entire courtyard was ablaze, with the speed of Duanling Tian's group of four, they could still easily suppress the surrounding flames. In next to no time, Xiong Quan had returned, and he carried in his hand a person. It was a young man. With just a glance, Duanling Tian recognized this young man. Li Xian. Li Xian, the son of the former 7th Elder Li Kuan. Duanling Tian's face was gloomy. That year when he left Fresh Breeze Town, he didn't plan to make trouble for Li Xian. But now this Li Xian was actually thick-headed enough to look for trouble with Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian, it actually didn't burn you to death. Li Xian's eyes were crimson red when he noticed that Duanling Tian and the others were safe and sound, and he had an unwilling expression on his face. Meanwhile, disordered sounds of footsteps sounded. It was Patriarch Li Nanfeng and the group of elders that had rushed over. Even many Li family disciples had rushed over with buckets in their hands. Then they rushed over to put out the fire in the courtyard of Duanling Tian's house. But unfortunately, the fire had already raged to the extent that there was no way to put it out. In the end, the entire courtyard transformed into ash. Duanling Tian clenched his fists tightly, and killing intent flickered within his eyes. This courtyard had too many of his memories. Now it was all gone. Ha 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 ha, Duanling Tian. Enraged? I precisely wanted to enrage you. It was you who destroyed my brother's life. And my father surely died because of you. I want to take revenge for them. I want to take revenge for them. Li Xian burst out into laughter when he saw Duanling Tian's expression. Li Xian, you're courting death. Duanling Tian's gaze went cold as he stared at Li Xian and spoke with an icy cold voice. Tian, let the Patriarch handle this matter, Li Ro said to Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian let out a long breath. Only now did he realize that Patriarch Li Nanfeng and the elders were present. Duanling Tian, don't worry. The Li clan will give you an explanation. Li Nanfeng's face was extremely unsightly. With Duanling Tian's current status, Duanling Tian still being able to return to visit them showed that he still considered himself a member of the Li clan. Now that Duanling Tian had returned and stayed a night, Li Xian had actually set fire to Duanling Tian's house. This touched Li Nanfeng's bottom line. Right, Duanling Tian, we will give you an explanation. The Li clan elders all stated, and their gazes were filled with chilly killing intent when they looked at Li Xian. Duanling Tian nodded. After a short moment, Duanling Tian and his family moved into the courtyard that Li Nanfeng arranged for them. As for the matter with Li Xian, he trusted that the Patriarch would be able to handle it well, so he didn't think about it anymore. At dawn the next day, after Duanling Tian woke up, he woke the two girls up, and then he walked around the Li family estate. After leaving this time, he didn't know when he would return again. I heard Li Xian was sentenced to death by the Patriarch. He deserved it for going straight toward a barrage of spears. Exactly. Duanling Tian is the pride of our Li family, but that Li Xian actually dared to provoke him. That's simply courting death. Duanling Tian was slightly surprised when he heard the discussion of the Li family disciples, as he never expected the Patriarch and the elders to give him such a straightforward explanation. After having their breakfast, Duanling Tian said his farewells to the Li family higher-ups. Patriarch Li Nanfeng and the elders personally sent Duanling Tian's group out of Fresh Breeze Town. After seeing Duanling Tian off, they turned around and returned. Traveling by Fergana horse, Duanling Tian's group arrived at Aurora City within 2 hours. They hadn't been at Li Fei's house for long when Duanling Tian saw Patriarch Liao bring along a group of elders as he came over. Duan Ling Tian. Liao saw Duan Ling Tian once again and had a face full of smiles. At the same time that he was shocked, he was also rather gratified towards the achievements Duan Ling Tian had attained. After all, Duan Ling Tian was from their Li clan. When they found out that their Li clan had a figure such as Duan Ling Tian, the other great clans from the nearby cities all intentionally got on friendly terms with the Li clan. And the Li clan also gained many benefits from this. As far as Liao was concerned, all of this was the contribution of Duan Ling Tian. Patriarch. Duan Ling Tian smiled to Liao, then he greeted the other elders, even though he wasn't quite familiar with them. Scoundrel, something has happened to Grandpa. Right at this moment, Li Fei's anxious voice that carried a trace of sobbing sounded out. What happened? Duan Ling Tian's face slightly focused as he looked at Li Fei. Li Fei passed the letter in her hand to Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian opened it and read, Fei, if you see this letter that Grandpa left for you when you return, then Grandpa should be dead. Actually, I'd long since wanted to help do something for my teacher. But because of your existence, Grandpa was always unable to make this decision. Now you have Ling Tian to take care of you, so Grandpa can be at ease. I want to go to a place and find the person that once had a life wager by weapon refinement with my teacher and caused my teacher to die tragically. I will make him wager his life by weapon refinement with me to take revenge for my teacher. This is the only thing I can do for my teacher. That year, if it wasn't for my teacher saving me, I would have died long ago. If you see this letter, don't be sad. Grandpa died for something, and it's worth it. After finishing, Duan Ling Tian's expression was incomparably gloomy. Liao sensed that something was off as well, and he asked, What happened? Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath. Then he passed the letter to Liao. After he finished reading, Liao's face went gloomy. Elder Li left a year ago. At that time, he only said that he was going on a long journey. I never thought that. 1 year ago? Duan Ling Tian's face went grim, and he looked at Li Fei with a worried gaze. Scoundrel! Li Fei threw herself into Duan Ling Tian's embrace and started wailing. Duan Ling Tian lightly patted Li Fei's back, and his eyes went cold as he looked at Liao. Patriarch, do you know where Elder Li went? Liao shook his head. I don't know. I didn't even know Elder Li had a teacher. However, wagering their life by weapons refinement is a clue. After all, something like this doesn't happen often. So long as we spend some time, we ought to be able to find out. I'll send people to investigate right now. Thank you, Patriarch. Duan Ling Tian nodded gratefully. Liao brought the group of Li clan elders to rush off. Many orders were passed down one by one. The Li clan regarded this matter as extremely important. In the eyes of the Li clan higher-ups, even though Duan Ling Tian was only a disciple with another surname, he was the pride of the Li clan. Coupled with the status of Duan Ling Tian within the Crimson Sky Kingdom, even if they just wanted to curry favor with him, they would still do their very best to help him. Little Fei, don't worry, maybe Grandpa won. Duan Ling Tian consoled Li Fei. Li Fei cried as she said, Grandpa has already been gone for a year. If he won, he would have returned a long time ago. Maybe Grandpa's mood was elated after winning, so he wanted to travel around. Before we've confirmed what happened, calm down, all right? Under Duan Ling Tian's consoling, Li Fei's expression finally eased up. Scoundrel, if Grandpa lost, you must help me take revenge for Grandpa. Li Fei's beautiful eyes squinted and killing intent flickered within. Don't worry. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of killing intent, and he fiercely nodded. Li Fei's grandfather was also his grandfather. Duan Ling Tian brought Li Fei back to his own courtyard, and when Li Ro and Ku Er heard of the matter regarding Li Fei's grandfather, they started consoling Li Fei as well. Duan Ling Tian told the three women something, then he left the Li clan estate with Xiong Quan. He directly headed to the trade market and went to the medicine store to see Tang Ying, the person in charge of Ghastly Shadow in Aurora City. Kid, you finally returned. Tang Ying was slightly surprised as well when he saw Duan Ling Tian. However, he quickly noticed that Duan Ling Tian's expression was extremely unsightly. What? With your current status, what can make you vexed? Presently, Duan Ling Tian could be considered someone famous within the domain of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Tang Ying, I came to look for you this time because I have something I need your help with. Duan Ling Tian spoke of his reason for coming. Speak. Tang Ying nodded. Duan Ling Tian spoke of Li does matter to Tang Ying. Then he said, I want you to investigate through the information network of Ghastly Shadow. Find out if there's been an incident of a life wager by weapons refinement anywhere in the last year. No problem, Tang Ying promised. I'll be troubling you. After leaving the medicine store, Duan Ling Tian went to the Lin clan estate to look for Lin Qi. Duan Ling Tian, you're a fellow that's famous throughout the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom. Lin Qi once again looked at Duan Ling Tian with an extremely complicated gaze. The former youth had now grown to such a degree that he was too far behind to catch up to. Lin Qi, I came here this time because I have something I need your help with. Duan Ling Tian spoke of why he came. He came to look for Lin Qi this time precisely because he hoped that through Lin Qi, he could get the Violet Tulip Trading Company to help him acquire information. After hearing of the sequence of events, Lin Qi's expression was serious. This is naturally not a problem. I'll go look for the person in charge of the Violet Tulip Trading Company in Aurora City right now. I'm confident that with your current status and identity, my uncle and aunt will be happy to help you. I'll be troubling you. Duan Ling Tian nodded. He wasn't in the Imperial City anymore, so besides the Li clan, the powers that he could use were only Ghastly Shadow and the Violet Tulip Trading Company. However, Duan Ling Tian was confident that with the involvement of the Violet Tulip Trading Company and Ghastly Shadow, there ought to be a result very soon. Only after he left the Lin clan estate did Duan Ling Tian let out a long breath and return to the Li clan estate. Heading straight towards him was a familiar face. Lian. Before Duan Ling Tian arrived at the Li clan, this Lian was once in existence in the younger generation of the Li clan that was only inferior to Li Qing. Later, he even wanted to try and obtain Ku heir. However, after Duan Ling Tian revealed his formidable strength, Lian sensibly vanished. Duan Ling Tian. Lian was slightly embarrassed when he saw Duan Ling Tian. With Duan Ling Tian's current status and identity, even if he had any ideas, he still wouldn't dare do anything in front of Duan Ling Tian. A slight mistake could lead to him falling into a bottomless abyss. Duan Ling Tian nodded indifferently. He didn't have any friendly relationship with Lian, and instead had some conflicts with him. However, he wasn't in the mood to fuss about, so he directly returned home. Lian couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw Duan Ling Tian leave. He was really worried that Duan Ling Tian would get even with him for old grudges. Now it would seem that it was he who was too narrow-minded. When Duan Ling Tian returned home, he noticed a fat figure sitting and chatting with his mother. Li Xian? Duan Ling Tian walked into the courtyard and was slightly hesitant when he spoke. Li Xian ought to be around this age now. Haha, boss. The fatty turned around. Compared to before, his fat face's immaturity had vanished. However, his pair of eyes were still so wretched. Li Xian, you've grown up? Duan Ling Tian looked at the fatty and couldn't help but laugh. Subsequently, he replaced his mother and started chatting with the fatty. Boss, you're really formidable now. The moment I said you're my boss, no one in the Li clan dared offend me, Li Xian boasted, and his fat face was filled with a complacent expression. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. You little fatty, when did you learn how to take advantage of someone else's influence? Boss, you've fought so hard outside to become so renowned. If I don't utilize it properly, wouldn't it be a waste of your hard work? Li Xian said, in all seriousness. Can you be more shameless? Duan Ling Tian rolled his eyes at Li Xian. This damned fatty was still as wretched as he was that year, and it caused Duan Ling Tian to feel as if he'd retuned to the days in Fresh Breeze Town all those years ago. He could still remember the son of Second Elder, who was given such a hard time by Li Xian that he would run the moment he saw Li Xian. Boss, tell me about what happened in the Imperial City. Li Xian was obviously extremely interested in Duan Ling Tian's experiences in the Imperial City. Along with Duan Ling Tian's narration, Li Xian's small eyes flickered with a bright light. Boss, why don't you take me along to the Imperial City when you leave this time? At that time, with you protecting me, wouldn't I be able to do whatever I wanted? As he finished speaking, Li Xian's face was full of yearning. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. I'm afraid I can't grant your wish. Once I've dealt with the matter here, I won't stay long after I return to the imperial city. Seeing Li Xian bewildered, Duan Ling Tian continued, I intend to head to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Li Xian's fat face dropped when he heard what Duan Ling Tian said. Then I can only continue to stay in Aurora City. In the following days, Duan Ling Tian stayed in the Li clan as he waited for news. Finally, after a month, Lin Shi brought back good news. Duan Ling Tian, I found it. Lin Shi was out of breath when he arrived, as he had obviously ran over straight after he obtained the information. You found it? Duan Ling Tian's eyes shone. Duan Ling Tian, according to the information the Violet Tulip Trading Company found, a grade 8 weapons craftsman and another person had a life wager by weapons refinement 1 year ago in the county city. In the end, the quality of the spirit weapon crafted by the grade 8 weapons craftsman surpassed that of the other person, and thus that person lost his life because of this. Lin Shi finished saying with a single breath. At that time, this incident gave rise to much discussion within the county city, so even my aunt knew of it. When she found out you were investigating this matter, she sent someone on a Fergana horse at the first possible moment to notify me. Do you know that weapons craftsman's background? Duan Ling Tian's face sank, and a trace of a cold light flashed within his eyes as he asked. It seems to be a member of the county city's Zhu clan, Lin Shi continued. Zhu clan? Duan Ling Tian's gaze flashed, then he smiled gratefully to Lin Shi. Lin Shi, thank you. Don't mention it. We're friends, after all. Lin Shi shook his head and then said, Duan Ling Tian, my aunt said that if you need any help, you can look for her after you've arrived in the county city. Don't worry. If I really do require it, I won't be courteous. Duan Ling Tian nodded. After Lin Shi left, Li Fei came out of her room and was slightly agitated. Scoundrel, is there any news? Yes, there's news, but it isn't confirmed to be your grandfather, so I intend to make a trip to the county city and personally confirm it. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and as he finished speaking, his gaze went slightly cold. If it's really your grandfather, then that Zhu clan's grade 8 weapons craftsman will surely die. I'll follow you, Li Fei said. Duan Ling Tian didn't refuse, as he knew that he couldn't refuse her, nor did he have a reason to. The person that was most concerned about the matter now was Li Fei without a doubt. Okay, I'll tell Ke-er and my mother. We'll leave in a moment with Xiong Quan, Duan Ling Tian said. 3 Fergana horses transformed into a gust of wind that flew out of Aurora City. With the Fergana horse as their means of transport, Duan Ling Tian's group of 3 only spent 7 days to rush to the Swallow Mountain County's county city. The county city was larger than Aurora City, but inferior to the imperial city. Carriages queued up like long dragons and entered like a ceaseless stream into the county city. Duan Ling Tian found an inn, and the 3 of them took up residence there first. Then they found a nearby restaurant to have a meal. Li Fei didn't wear a veil, thus she attracted many burning gazes everywhere she passed. However, although these people were envious, they didn't dare act rashly. This was because they could discern that the violet-clothed young man that walked with the girl had an extraordinary bearing and obviously was no ordinary person. Besides that, the middle-aged man that followed behind seemed to not be simple with just a glance. In next to no time, an attendant arrived before Duan Ling Tian's table and respectfully asked, Customer, what are you having? Slap. Duan Ling Tian raised his hand and smashed down a silver ingot. I want to ask you for information about something. If you provide me with what I need, this is yours. The eyes of the attendant lit up when he heard what Duan Ling Tian said. I can get so much silver by just talking? Just this silver ingot was worth his salary for a month. Customer, what do you want to know? Ask away. The attendant smiled in a flattering manner. Duan Ling Tian looked at the attendant and asked, I'm not interested in anything else, I just want to ask you. 1 year ago, was there a grade 8 weapons craftsman of the Zhu clan that had a conflict with another grade 8 weapons craftsman from outside the county city? Even to the extent they competed for supremacy by weapons refinement and conducted a life wager. Customer, I was wondering what you wanted to ask. So it's this, I know this. The attendant instantly smiled when he heard Duan Ling Tian's question. The grade 8 weapons craftsman of the Zhu clan, you're speaking about it, the Zhu clan's second elder, now that I mention it. This Zhu clan's second elder is a famous grade 8 weapons craftsman in our Swallow Mountain County's county city. He's even capable of refining a grade 8 spirit weapon capable of providing a 19% amplification. 19%, that's top quality amongst grade 8 spirit weapons. Allegedly, he once had a life wager by weapons refinement with another grade 8 weapons craftsman many years ago. At that time, he was only able to refine a grade 8 spirit weapon that could provide an 18% amplification, but he still defeated the other weapons craftsman. Allegedly, that overconfident grade 8 weapons craftsman from 1 year ago was precisely the disciple of that grade 8 weapons craftsman from many years ago. These two master and disciple lost their lives at the hands of the same person. They can consider to be misfortunate as well. As he finished speaking, the attendant couldn't help but sigh. Li Fei's beautiful eyes were lightly red when she heard what the attendant said. Now she could almost be certain that the grade 8 weapons craftsman that had a life wager by weapons refinement with the Zhu clan's second elder was precisely her grandfather, Li Da. Do you know the appearance of the grade 8 weapons craftsman that had a life wager by weapons refinement with the Zhu clan's second elder? Duan Ling Tian looked at the attendant and confirmed a step further. Customer, now that I mention it, it's really a coincidence. That day, I happened to be on leave, and I had a friend who was a servant in the Zhu clan. He snuck me in and I watched the life wager with my own 2 eyes. That grade 8 weapons craftsman was an old man around the age of 70. And above the left brow of the old man was a crescent-equal-shaped scar. The attendant slowly said word for word. Unfortunately, even though he had refined a spirit weapon with 18% amplification, he still lost. Grandfather! Li Fei's heart trembled, and she raised her head as if wanting to stop the tears that were about to flow. This silver is yours. Give us some of your signature dishes. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath. Now he could be sure that the old man was indeed Li Da. All right. The attendant received the silver and left jubilantly. As far as he was concerned, it was a great profit that he was able to speak a few sentences to earn a silver ingot. Scoundrel! Li Fei's eyes held tears that were about to fall and were slightly agitated. Little Fei, we've traveled an entire day. When the food comes in a while, you eat properly. After you're full, we'll go to the Zhu clan estate and make the Zhu clan's second elder pay with his life. Doesn't he like wagering his life by weapons refinement? Then I'll play with him nicely. As Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, his eyes went cold. Li Fei lightly nodded, seeming obedient and cute. Xiong Quan's eyes squinted as he said, with a cold and indifferent voice, Young master, it's only a county city clan. You only have to say the word and I'll go annihilate him now. Xiong Quan, it'll be too easy for him if you kill him right away. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. Right at this moment, 2 figures walked into the restaurant. The person in the lead was a young man over the age of 20, and an old man followed behind him. The young man's complexion seemed pale and his footsteps light. Obviously, he had just excessively indulged himself in the bedroom. In next to no time, the young man's gaze descended onto the table Duan Ling Tian sat at and descended onto Li Fei. So beautiful. The young man's breathing became hurried, and he quickly walked over. He then looked at Li Fei with a burning gaze. Young lady, may I know your name? From the beginning until the end, he completely ignored the nearby Duan Ling Tian and Xiong Quan. K off. Li Qing's mood was already bad. Now that she was annoyed by such a hateful fellow, her face sank and she shouted coldly. Oh, quite ferocious. This young master likes it. The young man didn't get angry and instead was even more interested. Young lady, how about we be friends? Didn't you hear her ask you to K off? Duan Ling Tian's face sank, and he hadn't glanced at the young man all this time. Only now did the young man notice Duan Ling Tian, and he instantly emitted a sneer. Kid, do you know who you're talking to? Didn't you even find out if I, Zhu Zhao, the 3rd young master of the Zhu clan, was someone you could offend? Zhu clan's 3rd young master? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed into a line when he heard what the young man said. You're a member of the Zhu clan? Exactly. This young master's father is the second master of the Zhu clan, and the Zhu clan's patriarch is my uncle. How about it, kid? Afraid? If you're afraid, then hurry up and K off. Zhu Zhao held his chin high and looked down at Duanling Tian with a condescending gaze and a face full of arrogance and complacency. He didn't notice, however, that an indistinct smile had appeared on the corners of Duanling Tian's mouth. It was the smile of joy a hunter would make he found his prey. I'll give you one more chance. K off. Duanling Tian's eyes went slightly cold, and he directed them straight at Zhu Zhao as he spoke with a tone that had an extra bit of oppressive force. You know this young master's identity, and you still dare ask this young master to K off? Zhu Zhao was stupefied. Then he revealed a savage expression and extended his hand, directly grabbing at Duanling Tian. Since you aren't King off, then let this young master assist you. When Zhu Zhao made his move, 10 ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared above him. 7th level of the core formation stage. You're overestimating yourself. Duanling Tian sneered. Then he casually swung his arm. He only used the strength of 12 ancient mammoths to easily block Zhu Zhao's attack and slap him down onto the ground. Ah! Zhu Zhao's body that was weak from excessive venting of lust crashed onto the ground, and he emitted a shrill, sad, and miserable cry. Zhu Zhao looked at the old man that followed behind him. Then his face revealed a savage expression as he howled, "Uncle Ji, I want him dead." The old man looked at Duanling Tian and his eyes went cold. Then he walked out in large strides. Young man, there are some people that you can't afford to offend. Once you do offend them, you have to pay the price. As soon as he finished speaking, the old man extended out his hand to descend upon Duanling Tian, desiring to grab Duanling Tian from his seat. Above the old man, 100 ancient mammoth silhouettes condensed into form. He was shockingly a 7th level origin core martial artist. The corners of Duanling Tian's mouth curled into a sneer. He paid no attention to the old man. Instead, he looked at the attendant, who stood far away. Hey, why hasn't our food come yet? Hurry up, we still have matters to attend to after we eat. The surrounding customers in the restaurant were speechless. This violet-clothed young man had actually completely disregarded the old man. Right at the moment they thought Duanling Tian would be out of luck. Xiong Quan, who stood behind Duanling Tian, moved close to the old man. Then he casually slapped out his palm to smash onto the old man's body, blasting the old man that was approaching in full fury. The old man fiercely collided with the wall and then fainted. Above Xiong Quan, ancient mammoth silhouettes flashed before instantly vanishing, and no one clearly saw how many there actually were. So formidable. This middle-aged man is at least in existence at the 9th level of the origin core stage. No wonder the violet-clothed young man was so composed. So it turned out that he had such a powerhouse by his side, a powerhouse that could blast away a 7th level origin core martial artist with a single strike. Such ability is something that even an 8th level origin core martial artist is incapable of doing. He's surely in existence at the 9th level of the origin core stage. The surrounding customers couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Customer, your food is here. Meanwhile, the attendant placed steaming hot dishes on Duanling Tian's table. The attendant slightly trembled with fear, as he never imagined that this generous young man would actually be so terrifying, even daring to bash the Zhu clan's 3rd young master. Zhu Zhao was lying on the ground, struggling trying to stand up, but the aching pain that came from his body caused it to be difficult for him to do so. Noticing the burning gazes cast at him from the surroundings, embarrassment arose within his heart. When had he ever lost face like this? For a time, his gaze had a sense of coldness and fierceness mixed within when he looked at Duanling Tian. Kid, you're dead. Lying down as you mouth threatens, aren't you tired? Duanling Tian calmly glanced at Zhu Zhao, then he paid no further attention to him and put some food onto Li Fei's plate as he said, with a light smile, "Little Fei, here, eat more." Li Fei lightly nodded, and her pair of beautiful eyes were tender and soft as water when she looked at Duanling Tian. Being able to obtain this man's care in this lifetime, she could die without regrets. Xiong Quan, sit down and eat together. Duan Ling Tian called Xiong Quan. Yes, young master. Xiong Quan replied respectfully before sitting down. Zhu Zhao was angered to the point that his face flushed when he saw this scene. Then he looked at the old man who had fainted by the wall, and he had the desire to faint. Whoever goes to the Zhu clan and helps this young master notify the clan, this 1,000 silver is yours. Zhu Zhao gritted his teeth and withdrew 1,000 silver from his pocket. Then he looked at the crowd of customers in the restaurant. Many customers had burning gazes when they heard what he said, but they glanced at Duan Ling Tian and gave up any thoughts of helping Zhu Zhao. What a joke. This violet-clothed young man had an existence that might be at the 9th level of the origin core stage by his side. If they were to help Zhu Zhao and make the violet-clothed young man unhappy, they'd surely land themselves in serious trouble. So, even though they coveted the 1,000 silver in Zhu Zhao's hand, they didn't dare make any moves. Although money was good, it wasn't important as one's life. You all are. A bunch of pu****is. Zhu Zhao's face was gloomy, and even his breathing became hurried. If you make another sound, that's what will happen to you. Duan Ling Tian coldly swept Zhu Zhao with his gaze. Then he extended his hand to point at the old man that had fainted by the wall. Zhu Zhao instantly shut his mouth when he heard what Duan Ling Tian said, but his eyes still leaked dense hatred as he thought about how he would take revenge on Duan Ling Tian once he returned to the Zhu clan. Although no one dared to take Zhu Zhao's money, some of the customers left the restaurant after their meals, so the matter of Zhu Zhao biting off more than he could chew had still spread out. Duan Ling Tian had only just finished his meal and was about to leave when he heard hurried footsteps echoing out from outside the restaurant, and a total of 4 people arrived in a threatening manner. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised and he glanced at Zhu Zhao. Xiong Quan, grab him? Yes, young master. Xiong Quan extended his hand and lifted Zhu Zhao up when he heard what Duan Ling Tian said. What do you want to do? Zhu Zhao was terrified to the point that his face went pale when he was lifted up by Xiong Quan, as he'd experienced the strength of this middle-aged man which seemed to be at the 9th level of the origin core stage earlier. If this middle-aged man wanted to kill him, it would be as simple as killing an ant. Meanwhile, the footsteps grew clearer, and 4 middle-aged men rushed into the restaurant. The middle-aged man in the lead wore blue clothes, and his face was covered in a layer of murderous rage. Zhu Zhao seemed as if he had seen his savior when he saw the blue-clothed middle-aged man, and he hurriedly shouted, "Father, save me!" The blue-clothed middle-aged man took a deep breath. Then his gaze flashed past the old man that had fainted by the wall, and his eyes flashed with a trace of fear. Next he looked at Duan Ling Tian. "Little brother, I'm the Zhu clan's second master, Zhu Qi. If my son has offended you, I hope you can forgive him." He was completely clear of the strength of the old man that followed by his son's side. Thus he could easily imagine the strength of the middle-aged man by Duan Ling Tian's side, just from the middle-aged man being able to knock out the old man. 9th level of the origin core stage? Even within their Zhu clan, existences like him were numbered. Of course, he wasn't afraid of a mere 9th level origin core martial artist, because he was a 9th level origin core martial artist as well. The other 3 people that had followed him over were all existences at the 8th level of the origin core stage as well. If they were to go all out, he was certain in being able to kill the middle-aged man. However, what he was truly afraid of now was this violet-clothed young man. As far as he knew, the violet-clothed young man's identity wasn't simple, because he was able to have a 9th level origin core martial artist as a subordinate. So, even though he was enraged, he chose to endure in the end and chose to give in. "Father, what are you doing? I want him dead. I want him dead." Zhu Zhao's face went grim when he heard what Zhu Qi said, and he had a savage appearance as he howled. "Bastard!" Zhu Qi's face sank, and he took a step forward, wanting to slap Zhu Zhao. However, Xiong Quan casually raised his hand and moved Zhu Zhao away. Zhu Qi frowned, but his son was in the hands of the middle-aged man, so he didn't dare lose his temper, and he looked at the nearby Duan Ling Tian. "Little brother, after I bring my son back to the clan, I'll surely teach him a good lesson. Now, I hope little brother can release my son. Duanling Tian lazily glanced at Zhu Qi and said indifferently, I heard your Zhu clan's second elder is a grade 8 weapons craftsman. Yes. Zhu Qi nodded. If little brother wants our second elder to refine a grade 8 spirit weapon for you, then I can help introduce little brother. Just think of it as an apology. How about it? You really conceal your intentions deeply? Duanling Tian deeply glanced at Zhu Qi, as if he could see through Zhu Qi's heart. Now, you're probably thinking that if I have such a subordinate by my side, my background ought to not be simple. Am I right? Zhu Qi had an embarrassed expression, as he never imagined that he would be seen through by Duanling Tian. Enough. I'll hold your son. So long as you call your Zhu clan's second elder out, I will return your son to you. Duanling Tian looked at Zhu Qi with a calm gaze. Zhu Qi's pupils constricted, as he had discerned that the violet-clothed young man didn't have any good intentions. Little brother, may I know why you're looking for my Zhu clan's second elder? It probably isn't so simple as wanting our Zhu clan's second elder to refine a grade 8 spirit weapon, right? Grade 8 spirit weapon? The corners of Duanling Tian's mouth curled into a sneer, then he raised his hand. In his hand blazed a strand of raging flames. Do you think I need him to help me refine? The blazing flame on Duanling Tian's hand created a stir within the restaurant as expected. Oh my god, it's a grade 8 weapon flame. This violet-clothed young man looks to not even be 20, but he's already a grade 8 weapons craftsman? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. A grade 8 weapons craftsman that isn't even 20. What natural talent is this? The faces of the customers in the restaurant were filled with shock, and they couldn't help but exclaim. Some people seemed to have recalled something, and their pupils abruptly constricted. A grade 8 weapon flame can only be condensed by a martial artist at the origin core stage. In other words, this young man is an origin core martial artist. An origin core martial artist that's not even 20? Grade 8 weapons craftsman? The faces of the three middle-aged men that Zhu Qi brought over went grim. The violet clothed before their eyes was far more terrifying than they originally imagined. Little brother, may I know who you actually are? Zhu Qi took a deep breath. He could feel his heartbeat growing faster. Now even 20. Origin core stage. Grade 8 weapons craftsman. Only thinking about it caused his scalp to go numb. Instantly, Duanling Tian became the absolute counter of attention within the restaurant. In the current younger generation of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, an origin core martial artist below 20 would only be inferior to the Imperial City's commander of the Embroidered Uniform Guard, Duanling Tian. However, a grade 8 weapons craftsman below 20 was one of a kind. At least in the long history of the Crimson Sky Kingdom, there has never been such a monstrous existence. Zhu Zhao was stupefied. He never would have imagined that a fellow he had randomly provoked would actually be such an abnormal existence. Even though he was a profligate son of a great clan, he wasn't an idiot. He knew that he had bitten off more than he could chew this time. Moreover, it was of the extremely hard type. It isn't important who I am. Duanling Tian looked at Zhu Qi with a calm gaze. Just call out your Zhu clan's second elder, right? Remember to tell him that I came to look for him this time only for the sake of holding a life wager with him. I heard that he won 2 life wagers by weapons refinement. I presume he ought to not refuse my challenge. Life wager by weapons refinement? Zhu Qi's pupils constricted, and he took a deep breath. Then he looked at Duanling Tian. Little brother, although I don't know who you are, since you were able to break through to the origin core stage and become a grade 8 weapons craftsman at such a young age, I presume your background isn't simple. But I still want to advise you. A life wager isn't a joke. Our Zhu clan's second elder can be said to be second to none amongst the grade 8 weapons craftsmen of Crimson Sky Kingdom. At least 80% of the grade 8 spirit weapons he refines are top-quality spirit weapons that provide a 19% amplification. As he spoke up to hear, Zhu Qi looked at Duanling Tian, as if he wanted to make Duanling Tian aware of the overwhelming odds and retreat. If it was any ordinary grade 8 weapons craftsman, he wouldn't waste his breath like this. But now that Duanling Tian's background was obviously not simple, He didn't want the life wager by weapons refinement to cause the Zhu clan to offend what seemed to be an extremely formidable power for no reason. Now even the group of customers in the restaurant felt that Duan Ling Tian was indulging in a wild fantasy. This young man is too arrogant. Yeah. Although he became a grade 8 weapons craftsman at such an age, in terms of experience, how could he possibly compare to the Zhu clan's second elder? Exactly. The Zhu clan's second elder has done life wagers by weapons refinement with others twice, and he hasn't lost once. Young people truly are arrogant. It's like how a newborn calf isn't afraid of tigers. No one amongst the present customers looked favorably at Duan Ling Tian. Little brother, you've heard them as well. If you really wager your life with our Zhu clan's second elder, the loser would surely be you. So let's just forget it. Zhu Qi persuaded further when he saw Duan Ling Tian remain indifferent. Duan Ling Tian swept Zhu Qi with a calm gaze and slowly asked, "Where's the biggest trade market in your Swallow Mountain County's county city?" Although he didn't know why Duan Ling Tian asked this, Zhu Qi still said, "In the middle area of the county city." Duan Ling Tian nodded, then he put down the money for the food, grabbed Li Fei's hand, and glanced at Xiong Quan. "Xiong Quan, let's go to the trade market in the middle area of the city." As he spoke, Duan Ling Tian held on to Li Fei's hand and walked out. Xiong Quan held Zhu Zhao and followed. "Little brother, my son?" Zhu Qi's face went slightly grim, and he was somewhat anxious. "Provided that I meet your Zhu clan's second elder, provided that he agrees to a life wager by weapons refinement with me, I will return your son to you safe and sound." Duan Ling Tian's voice drifted over from afar, causing Zhu Qi's expression to become gloomy. "Second master, what should we do now?" One of the middle-aged men behind Zhu Qi asked, somewhat fearfully. "Return to the clan." Zhu Qi took in a deep breath and left the restaurant. The group of customers in the restaurant all paid their bills and left. Then they headed to the trade market at the middle area of the city because they knew that there would be a spectacle to see in a short while. Within the Zhu clan estate's audience hall. From the Zhu clan's patriarch and below, all the higher-ups of the Zhu clan were gathered together. A Zhu clan elder noticed that Zhu Rong's expression was unsightly and couldn't help but ask, "Patriarch, has some important matter occurred that you were so anxious to get us all here?" The other elders all looked over at Zhu Rong as well. Zhu Rong's face sank and looked at Zhu Qi, who stood nearby. "Second brother, you tell them." For a moment, the gazes of all the Zhu clan elders descended onto Zhu Qi. Zhu Qi took a deep breath, then slowly spoke in detail of what he saw and heard in the restaurant earlier. Then he added in the end, "According to that young man's intention, if second elder isn't willing to agree to his request, he won't release my son." Along with Zhu Qi finishing, the entire audience hall went deathly silent. Less than 20. Origin core martial artist? Grade 8 weapons craftsman? The Zhu clan's grand elder, an old man over the age of 70, looked at Zhu Qi as he asked, in a deep voice, "Zhu Qi, do you know his background?" "Grand elder, it's precisely because I don't know his background that I had to think twice." Zhu Qi laughed bitterly. Patriarch Zhu Rong looked at the Zhu clan's second elder, Zhu Liang, that sat beneath the grand elder, and asked, "Second elder, what do you think of this matter?" Zhu Liang had a calm expression as he indifferently said, "It's only just a young and ignorant kid that's relying on his natural talent to put on airs. However, since he's able to possess a cultivation at the origin core stage and became a grade 8 weapons craftsman at such an age, his background ought to not be simple." The Zhu clan's higher-ups present deeply agreed with what Zhu Liang said. "I think so too. However, he's already declared that if I want to save my son, then there's no other way." Zhu Qi nodded, and as he finished speaking, he had a bitter smile on his face. A Zhu clan elder who looked like he had a bad temper directly said, "Humph, it's only an ignorant kid." Second elder could just agree to his life wager declaration. Agreeing to his life wager is easy. Winning against him in the life wager is easy as well. Zhu Liang's muddy eyes flickered with a trace of a bright light, and he extended his hand to lightly tap the table. "However, we still don't know his background now. If we win and he dies, we'll surely offend the power that's standing behind him." The Zhu clan's higher-ups all went silent. This was precisely the most troublesome part. Zhu Rong pondered for a moment, then slowly said, "Second elder, how about this? You agree to the life wager. When you win, reveal your magnanimity and allow him to not fulfill the life wager. In this way, we can both save Zhu Zhao and avoid offending him." "This method works." "I think so too." Instantly, the group of Zhu clan elders expressed their agreement one by one. Everyone's gazes descended onto the Zhu clan's second elder, Zhu Liang. Zhu Liang's eyes flashed, then he nodded. "It's good this way. Once I win against him and allow him to not fulfill the life wager, I can get a good reputation for myself as well." The Swallow Mountain County's county city was undoubtedly bustling with noise and excitement today. Today, a mysterious young man that was below the age of 20 had arrived in the county city. Allegedly, this young man had bashed the Zhu clan's third young master, Zhu Zhao, when he had only just arrived. Not only that, but when the Zhu clan's second master brought along some clan members to get revenge, the mysterious young man even revealed his cultivation and natural talent as a weapons craftsman. An origin core stage martial artist and grade 8 weapons craftsman below the age of 20. After that, this young man even boasted about wanting to hold a life wager with the Zhu clan's second elder, Zhu Liang, a life wager by weapons refinement. Moreover, he'd chosen the most bustling trade market in the center of the city to hold the life wager. For some time, the entire county city was stirred. The trade market at the center of the city already had streams of people surging about, and now it was difficult to even take a single step. The county governor's estate. A dignified middle-aged man sat within the pergola in the front courtyard and savored fragrant tea with a pleased expression. Suddenly, a house servant ran before the dignified middle-aged man in a flurried manner. The dignified middle-aged man was precisely the Swallow Mountain County's county governor, Pei Yuan, and his brows raised as he asked, in a deep voice, "What are you so flurried about?" "County governor, a young man has come to our county city, and he wants to hold a life wager by weapons refinement with the Zhu clan's second elder." Under the detailed narration of the house servant, Pei Yuan found out of the ins and outs of the matter, and the corners of his mouth curved lightly. An origin core martial artist below the age of 20? Grade 8 weapons craftsman? Pei Yuan abruptly stood up, and his eyes lit up. Interesting. Come with me to join in the excitement." Alchemist's Guild. Since becoming a grade 7 alchemist 3 years ago and leaving Aurora City, Suemo had returned to the county city's Alchemist's Guild and even became the vice guild master of the Alchemist's Guild. What? An origin core martial artist below the age of 20? Grade 8 weapons craftsman? After Suemo heard of the rumors that gave rise to much discussion in the city, he was slightly surprised. Could it be that there's an existence within the Crimson Sky Kingdom's younger generation that can compare with that little freak? Suemo muttered. In this lifetime, he would never forget that violet-clothed youth from that year. That year, it was precisely because of that youth that he was able to smoothly become a grade 7 alchemist and was able to leave that remote Aurora City and return to the bustling county city. Later on, even though he was in the county city, he'd heard many rumors of that youth from all those years ago. The number 1 genius in Paladin Academy. The Duan clan's direct descendant disciple. The embroidered uniform guards commander. Now the little fellow from all those years ago has become the publicly acknowledged peerless genius with the best natural talent in the Crimson Sky Kingdom's younger generation. I'll go join in the excitement as well. I want to see who exactly is so monstrous as to be almost comparable to that kid, Duan Ling Tian. The corners of Su Mo's mouth held a smile, and he directly left the Alchemist's Guild, the trade market at the center of the city. A special sign hung outside a luxurious building. The sign of the Violet Tulip Trading Company. At the highest point of the building was a pavilion. Right now, a dignified, graceful, and beautiful woman sat there within the pavilion and looked from afar at the area of the trade market that was emptied. A violet-clothed young man stood there with a beautiful girl. Behind the two, a middle-aged man held a pale-faced young man like he was holding a chick. I never imagined that he would cause such a stir the moment he arrived. At an unknown time, a middle-aged man with extraordinary bearings and a firm expression arrived beside the beautiful woman and lightly smiled. Duanling Tian held Li Fei's hand, and at this moment, he could clearly feel the fluctuation in Li Fei's mood. Don't worry, I'll surely take revenge for Grandpa. Duanling Tian gave Li Fei a gaze that said, don't worry. I believe you. Li Fei lightly nodded. She trusted this man without condition. Her grandpa had died, and in the world, this man was her biggest reliance. In the future, she would only live for this man. They're here. Suddenly seeming to have noticed something, Duanling Tian's brows raised, and he looked into the distance. The dense crowd seemed as if they had discussed it earlier as they moved to open up a path. It's the Zhu clan's second elder. The Zhu clan's second master has come. The Zhu clan's patriarch, grand elder, and third elder have come as well. Oh my god, the Zhu clan's higher-ups have practically all swarmed out. The crowd surged and was incomparably clamorous. And on the path that the crowd opened up, a group of people approached in a formidable array. Among these people, Duanling Tian only recognized Zhu Qi, the Zhu clan's second master. In next to no time, Duanling Tian and the Zhu clan's group confronted each other in the emptied area. Duanling Tian wasn't afraid in the slightest when faced with the group of existences at the nascent soul stage and origin core stage. His gaze was calm. It was as if he was looking at a group of ordinary people. Moreover, while Duanling Tian sized up the group of Zhu clan members, the Zhu clan members were sizing him up as well. Their first thought was surprise. Such a young man would definitely not be above 20, but he had actually achieved such shocking achievements. It was truly shocking. The Zhu Qi took a step forward and looked at Duanling Tian. Then he said, in a deep voice, "Little brother, my Zhu clan's second elder has arrived. Now, can you release my son?" Which one is the Zhu clan's second elder? Duanling Tian's gaze flashed past the group of people behind Zhu Qi. I'm the Zhu clan's second elder, Zhu Liang. An old man behind Zhu Qi took a step forward and stood shoulder to shoulder with Zhu Qi. He looked at Duanling Tian with a gaze that had a sense of disdain mixed within. Kid, when it's possible to let someone off, one should spare them. When it's possible to let someone off, one should spare them. Duanling Tian couldn't help but burst out laughing when he heard what Zhu Liang said. Right when Zhu Liang frowned, Duanling Tian's laughter stopped abruptly, and his cold and indifferent gaze descended onto Zhu Liang. Zhu clan's second elder, I won't waste time. Now, let's set a life wager agreement and decide the outcome in a single round. Whoever refines the grade 8 spirit weapon with the lowest quality dies. Do you dare? Duanling Tian looked at Zhu Liang and a smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. Humph. Zhu Liang's voice was cold like ice. Why not? I'll agree to your life wager right now. If he didn't dare, he wouldn't have appeared here right now. Duanling Tian nodded. Good. Straightforward enough. Xiongquan, let him go. As soon as Duanling Tian finished speaking, Xiongquan tossed out Zhu Zhao, who was in his hand, directly at Zhu Qi as if he was throwing out trash. Zhu Qi glanced angrily at Xiongquan. Then he extended his hand to catch his son. Father. Zhu Zhao had a face full of shame. Zhu Qi grunted coldly. Stand at the back. I'll deal with you when we get back. At this moment, the surrounding crowd went silent, and everyone stared fixedly at the violet-clothed young man and green-clothed old man. They held their breaths, as they knew that the most exciting moment was about to arrive. Zhu Liang looked at Duanling Tian and said, with a calm voice that had a slight condescending tone mixed within, You're the junior, so you can put forth the requirements. What weapon will we refine? Zhu Liang's current tone was like a senior teaching a junior a lesson. The crowd surged with excitement. As expected of the Zhu clan's second elder, the publicly acknowledged #1 grade 8 weapons craftsman in our Swallow Mountain County. His bearing is extraordinary. Yeah, although this young man's natural talent in weapons refinement can be called monstrous, in terms of experience, it's surely impossible to compare to the Zhu clan's second elder. Him wagering his life by weapons refinement with the Zhu clan's second elder is definitely courting death. A newborn calf isn't afraid of a tiger. Today, this weapon's refining genius will probably die here. No one within the surrounding crowd looked favorably upon Duanling Tian. Duan Ling Tian was naturally able to hear the discussion of the crowd. A trace of worry appeared on Li Fei's face, and her hand gripped Duan Ling Tian's hand slightly tighter. Don't worry. Duan Ling Tian nightly kneaded Li Fei's palm, and after he let go of her hand, he took a step forward and looked at Zhu Liang. I don't mind. Then let's refine a sword. Sword? A trace of a smile appeared on the corners of Zhu Liang's mouth. In his lifetime, the weapon he refined the most was the sword. If it was refining a spirit sword, he was at least 90% confident that he would be able to refine a grade 8 spirit sword that provided an amplification of 19%. Then let's begin. Zhu Liang's gaze focused. Then he withdrew a pile of materials from his spatial ring with a wave of his hand and started refining the grade 8 spirit sword. Zhu Liang's technique was extremely complex and extremely practiced, causing the surrounding spectators to burst out with astonishment. The Zhu clan's second elder's technique is too swift. This is a true weapons craftsman. In next to no time, the surrounding spectators looked at Duan Ling Tian, but they quickly noticed that Duan Ling Tian stood there on the spot, without the slightest intention to start refining. Could it be that he's giving up like that? Isn't this deliberately courting death? Many people were speechless. Time flew by and 2 hours quickly passed by. The pile of materials on the weapon flame on Zhu Liang's hand had now completely merged together and shaped into the form of a sword. According to this speed, he would surely complete the refinement of the grade 8 spirit sword after an hour. Duan Ling Tian still hadn't made a move. In a restaurant near the place the life wager was being held, within 2 rooms that neighbored to each other, 2 pairs of eyes descended onto Duan Ling Tian. Could it be that this young man has given up? Within one of the rooms, the Swallow Mountain County's county governor, Pei Yuan, frowned and had a dumbfounded expression. Within the other room, Su Mo watched this scene, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. This kid looks to be very confident. I really never expected that besides being an alchemist, he was also a weapons craftsman. When Su Mo had just arrived in the room, he noticed that the young man that was intending to wager his life with the Zhu clan's second elder was actually the former youth, Duan Ling Tian. After he found out about this fact, his heart was filled with shock. In next to no time, however, he came to an understanding. As far as he was concerned, Duan Ling Tian was a little freak, and any wonder appearing on Duan Ling Tian wasn't strange. I wonder how this Zhu clan's second elder offended this little freak. I really want to see how he winds up the matter. The corners of Su Mo's mouth had a smile, as he had extremely high confidence towards Duan Ling Tian. Although he knew as well that the Zhu clan's second elder, Zhu Liang, could refine spirit weapons that provided a 19% amplification, when he thought about how Duan Ling Tian had refined that medicinal pill with a purity of over 90% that day, he was once again filled with confidence towards Duan Ling Tian. Moreover, he knew that since Duan Ling Tian dared to so arrogantly wager his life with the Zhu clan's second elder, he'd surely be confident. Duan Ling Tian wasn't a rash person. Within the pavilion atop the luxurious building right opposite the restaurant. Why do you think he hasn't started refining? A middle-aged man with an imposing appearance lightly smiled as he asked the beautiful woman beside him, with a voice that was gentle like water. The beautiful woman's beautiful, watery eyes condensed strands of complicated lights as she gathered her sight onto the violet-clothed young man. Maybe he doesn't need that much time to refine a grade 8 spirit weapon. Don't forget, he's Duan Ling Tian? Yeah, he's Duan Ling Tian. The middle-aged man lightly nodded and spoke with a tone that had an emotional sigh mixed within. When you mentioned him to me 3 years ago, I still slightly disagreed. Even to the extent that after he refused your good intentions, he still felt he didn't know what was good for him. Who would have known? The beautiful woman continued the discussion. Who would have known that in a short 3 years' time, he would become renowned throughout the entire Crimson Sky Kingdom? Now it seems that it's not only our Violet Tulip Trading Company, but even the Crimson Sky Kingdom can't hold him. Then let's witness him create a miracle once again. The middle-aged man lightly smiled as he nodded, and his gaze then descended onto the violet-clothed young man. The group of Zhu clan members couldn't help but reveal disdain on their faces when they saw that Duan Ling Tian still hadn't made a move. He actually hasn't started refining the Grade 8 spirit weapon. Could it be that he intends to admit defeat? A Zhu clan elder sneered. Probably not. The Zhu clan's patriarch, Zhu Rong, shook his head. Since he initiated the life wager, it's impossible for him to admit defeat. I have this feeling, was it bad for us to have asked the second elder to agree to this life wager so hastily? As he finished speaking, Zhu Rong frowned. He didn't know why, but when he gazed at the violet-clothed young man with a carefree and unhurried expression, he didn't feel confident in his heart. Patriarch, could it be that you think he can defeat the second elder? Another Zhu clan elder shook his head with a face full of doubt. Uncle, don't worry. Second elder is the publicly acknowledged #1 Grade 8 weapons craftsman in our Swallow Mountain County. In the Swallow Mountain County, a Grade 8 weapons craftsman that is capable of refining a spirit weapon that provides a 19% amplification has never been heard of. Zhu Zhao had recovered now, and he looked at Duanling Tian with an incomparably gloomy gaze. This time, I want to see how he dies. Zhu Qi glanced at his son and then said indifferently, then I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. The clan has already made a decision. Even if this young man loses to the second elder might not take his life. Why? Zhu Zhao was stupefied and had an unwilling expression. Zhu Rong added, Zhao, the background of this young man ought to not be simple. For the sake of not bringing unnecessary trouble to the clan, we can only do this. Zhu Zhao's face sank. Uncle, what if he doesn't have any background? Zhu Rong's eyes squinted and had an awe-inspiring killing intent. If we can confirm that he doesn't have any background, then he naturally won't be able to escape death once he loses. I and second elder have discussed it. After finishing the refinement, the second elder will try to find out about his background. If he really doesn't have any background, the second elder won't let him off. OM. The pile of merged materials in Zhu Liang's hand that were forming the shape of the sword earlier had now started condensing into the rough outline of a sword. And it had already been half an hour from the time the materials started forming the shape of a sword until now. And right when the surrounding spectators all thought that Duanling Tian intended to give up, Duanling Tian finally moved. Hiss. A Grade 8 weapon flame lit ablaze on Duanling Tian's hand, causing many people's gazes to abruptly light up. Although they'd heard that Duanling Tian was a Grade 8 weapons craftsman earlier, the hearts of many still shook when they saw Duanling Tian condense a Grade 8 weapon flame. Condensing a Grade 8 weapon flame at an age that's below 20, utterly monstrous. The young man is starting to refine as well. In next to no time, the surrounding spectators' gazes all moved onto Duanling Tian. When they saw the technique Duanling Tian revealed when he started refining, the surrounding spectators were stupefied. Isn't that really too fast? I'm completely unable to see his movements clearly. I thought that the speed of the Zhu clan's second elder was considered to be fast, but I never imagined that this young man's speed would be even faster. This young man's level of skill in his technique even surpasses the Zhu clan's second elder. However, the speed of technique doesn't mean that he's capable of refining a spirit weapon with higher quality. As the saying goes, slow work yields fine products. The speed at which Duanling Tian refined the Grade 8 spirit weapon could be said to be swift like lightning. Profound weapons refinement techniques flowed freely in his hands without hesitation, with a speed that far surpassed Zhu Liang. After 20 minutes passed, all of the materials in Duanling Tian's hands merged to start forming the shape of a sword. Oh my god! The step which took the Zhu clan's second elder 2 hours to complete was completed by him in 20 minutes. Abnormal. Too abnormal. Does he think that a spirit weapon refined at such a speed would really be a match for the spirit weapon refined by the Zhu clan's second elder? It might be slightly dangerous. The surrounding spectators were dumbstruck as they saw the forming shape of a sword above the weapon flames on Duanling Tian's hand. After another 10 minutes. Sword complete. Duanling Tian and Zhu Liang stopped at almost the exact same time, and on each of their hands was a sword respectively. A Grade 8 spirit sword. The Grade 8 spirit sword in Duanling Tian's hand assumed a jade green color. These materials were those that Duanling Tian had bought that time when he refined the embroidered spring swords, and after completing the refinement of the 13 swords, the remaining materials had now come to use. The grade 8 spirit sword in Zhu Liang's hand assumed an emerald color and matched well with his green clothes when grasped in his hand. Zhu Liang was slightly surprised when he saw the grade 8 spirit sword Duanling Tian had finished refining. He originally thought that with Duanling Tian's age, it would at least require 3 to 4 hours for him to refine a grade 8 spirit sword, but never had he imagined that Duanling Tian's speed could follow his. When Zhu Liang started refining, he put his heart and soul into it and knew nothing of what happened in the outside world while he was refining the spirit sword. In next to no time, the discussions that entered into his ears caused his face to go grim. Half an hour? Zhu Liang's gaze descended onto Duanling Tian. Only now did he realize that Duanling Tian had only taken half an hour to refine the grade 8 spirit sword, whereas he spent 3 hours. Duanling Tian had only started refining half an hour ago. This caused him to be extremely shocked. If he was given half an hour, he wouldn't be capable of refining a grade 8 spirit weapon within that time, even if his life depended upon it. On the other hand, 1 hour wouldn't be a problem. However, the grade 8 spirit weapon that was refined within an hour would be a substandard product that was not presentable. No wonder you're so arrogant. So it turned out to be that you know such a profound weapons refinement technique? However, do you really think a grade 8 spirit sword you spent half an hour to refine can compare to the spirit weapon I painstakingly refined for 3 hours? Zhu Liang looked at Duanling Tian in disdain. He was still extremely satisfied with the grade 8 spirit weapon in his hand. It was capable of providing a 19% amplification in strength and had completely expressed his level of skill. Won't you only know if it can compare to the grade 8 spirit weapon you refined after we test it? Duanling Tian had a carefree expression, and in terms of imposing manner, he wasn't disadvantaged in the slightest. Then I'll be waiting to see. However, before this, I still want to ask you. Why do you want to have a life wager by weapons refinement with me? Zhu Liang glanced deeply at Duanling Tian as he probed. Before the results were out, he had to investigate Duanling Tian's identity. If Duanling Tian's identity wasn't simple, then even if he won, he could only pretend to be magnanimous and spare Duanling Tian's life. If Duanling Tian didn't have any background, then he would surely make Duanling Tian die a graveless death. One had to pay a price for provoking him. You really want to know? Duanling Tian noticed Zhu Liang's gaze and naturally guessed his intentions. This caused a smile to appear on the corners of his mouth. Zhu Liang nodded. Okay, then I'll tell you. What Duanling Tian said caused Zhu Liang's gaze to light up. Even the group of Zhu clan members all gathered their concentration and looked at Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian looked at Zhu Liang and said indifferently, "You ought to still remember that old man that had a life wager by weapons refinement with you 1 year ago, right? He was my grandfather." Zhu Liang was stunned. Then he started laughing. That person from 1 year ago? So that old goat that overestimated himself and sought me out to have a life wager was your grandfather. Zhu Liang's gaze flickered, and he was assured in his heart. In other words, the young man before him ought to have no background and only had great natural talent. He knew of the background of the person from 1 year ago, an elder of a small clan in a small city. To the Zhu clan, it was nothing. The gazes of the Zhu clan members all lit up. Zhan, second elder, can help you take your revenge. The Zhu clan's patriarch, Zhu Rong, looked at Zhu Zhao, and a smile appeared on his face. Zhu Zhao had a pleasantly surprised expression. I told you, he surely had no background, as expected. So it turned out that the old goat that came to die 1 year ago was his grandfather. This time, let's allow this grandfather and grandson pair to be companions in hell. In next to no time, Zhu Zhao's gaze descended onto the faraway Li Fei. As far as he was concerned, once this violet-clothed youth died, wouldn't it be extremely easy for him to obtain this beauty that was like a celestial maiden if he wanted her? For a moment, Zhu Zhao's gaze revealed a sense of lust. Duanling Tian noticed Zhu Zhao's gaze at the first possible moment. His face sank and his eyes held an awe-inspiring killing intent as a response. This Zhu Zhao had actually dared to use this sort of gaze to be disrespectful to his little Fei. As far as Duan Ling Tian was concerned, Zhu Zhao was already a dead man. Kid, looks like you'll surely die today. Zhu Liang looked at Duan Ling Tian as if he'd already won, and in his heart, he indeed thought he'd won. Even though Duan Ling Tian's refinement technique was profound, as far as he was concerned, how could a spirit weapon that was refined within half an hour compare to the spirit weapon he refined for 3 hours? Moreover, in his opinion, this violet-clothed youth was only the grandson of a defeated opponent and amounted to nothing. Second Elder Zhu, don't speak so fast all the time. Duan Ling Tian smiled indifferently as if he didn't take what Zhu Liang had said to heart in the slightest. What? Could it be you really think the spirit sword you spent half an hour to refine is able to compete with the grade 8 spirit weapon I refined? Let me tell you, this grade 8 spirit sword I refined is able to amplify one's strength by 19%. Zhu Liang laughed in ridicule and swept Duan Ling Tian with a gaze of contempt. He didn't intentionally suppress his voice, and he even condensed his origin energy to spread if out far away. Instantly, the surrounding crowd stirred once again. 19%? Looks like the Zhu clan's second elder completely expressed his level of skill this time. This young man's luck is really bad. A grade 8 spirit weapon that provides a 19% amplification in the Swallow Mountain County. Besides the Zhu clan's second elder, I've never heard of any grade 8 weapons craftsman capable of refining such a spirit weapon. Unfortunately, a young man with such monstrous natural talent is bound to lose his life here today. Zhu Liang enjoyed listening to the discussions of the crowd. The Zhu clan members all revealed smiles on their faces. As far as they were concerned, this violet-clothed youth that didn't know his limitations would lose for sure, and die for sure. Within the room in the restaurant, a grade 8 spirit sword that was refined within half an hour? The Swallow Mountain County's county governor, Pei Yuan, shook his head, as he didn't look favorably upon the violet-clothed youth. In the neighboring room, Suemo slightly frowned. This kid, why didn't he refine a bit more seriously? Can this grade 8 spirit weapon that was refined in half an hour be of use? Even if Suemo had confidence in Duan Ling Tian, now he couldn't help but feel his confidence waver. After all, a grade 8 spirit weapon that was refined within half an hour was truly something unbelievable. It was not likely that the quality of a spirit weapon that was refined within such a short amount of time could be good. However, when he noticed Duan Ling Tian's carefree expression that was there from the beginning till the end, he was assured in his heart. Perhaps this kid will give me another pleasant surprise. Otherwise, I can only enlighten that Zhu clan member and let him know of the kid's identity. Suemo was confident that so long as Duan Ling Tian's identity was exposed, even if the Zhu clan was even braver, they would still not dare touch Duan Ling Tian. At least they wouldn't dare touch Duan Ling Tian in public. On the pavilion on the luxurious building. We will know the final result very soon. The beautiful woman lightly smiled as if she was filled with confidence towards the violet-clothed youth in the distance. Can a grade 8 spirit sword that was refined within half an hour possibly surpass the grade 8 spirit sword that provides a 19% amplification that Zhu Liang refined? The middle-aged man at the side was slightly hesitant as he spoke. You'll know if it's possible soon, the beautiful woman said. You're right. The middle-aged man lightly nodded. Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto Zhu Liang's figure. Second Elder Zhu, how are we testing the grade 8 spirit swords we've refined? Zhu Liang grunted coldly. Let's test each other's spirit swords ourselves. Of course, if we doubt the judgment of the other, we can find another to test it. Now, there's so many people in the surrounding. Is there a need to fear there being no one to test it? All right, then let's test each other's spirit swords first. Duan Ling Tian nodded. As he didn't have any objections, then he casually tossed the grade 8 spirit sword in his hand to Zhu Liang. Zhu Liang also tossed the grade 8 spirit sword in his hand to Duan Ling Tian. Although there were many people spectating, when they saw Duan Ling Tian and Zhu Liang exchange the grade 8 spirit swords they had refined, they all gathered their attention and stared fixedly. They knew that the results of today's life wager was about to be revealed. Duan Ling Tian's origin energy fused with the grade 8 spirit sword in his hand, and instantly, Ancient mammoth silhouettes flashed above him one by one. Right. It amplifies strength by 19%. Duan Ling Tian nodded to Zhu Liang with a calm gaze. He had to admit in his heart, this Zhu Liang was indeed skilled. However, Zhu Liang could only blame his own misfortune. After all, Duan Ling Tian's refinement technique and experience all came from the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor, and even in the entire Cloud Continent, it was a top-notch technique. This Zhu Liang wasn't just miles apart from him. However, he still held back when he refined the spirit sword this time. As far as he was concerned, it was sufficient as long as he firmly won against Zhu Liang. There was no need to show off too much of his ability. Zhu Liang, who was just about to test the Grade 8 spirit sword that Duan Ling Tian refined, saw Duan Ling Tian's current composed expression, and his heart couldn't help but jerk. Could it be that this kid really was confident in defeating him? No, impossible. Zhu Liang ceaselessly consoled himself in his heart as he took a deep breath and started to test the sword. Zhu Liang was a first-level nascent soul martial artist, so without a spirit weapon, he was capable of exerting the strength of 200 ancient mammoths. Now he used the Grade 8 spirit sword that Duan Ling Tian refined. Whoosh! For a moment, 240 ancient mammoths appeared above him. 20%? No. Impossible. Impossible. Zhu Liang's expression finally went pale, and his eyes sprung wide open like saucers as he ceaselessly shook his head, unwilling to believe this to be real. How could this be possible? The Grade 8 spirit weapon he refined that amplified strength by 19% could be considered a top-quality Grade 8 spirit weapon. And this Grade 8 spirit weapon that amplified strength by 20% could already be considered the top quality amongst top-quality spirit weapons. Such a spirit weapon was refined by a young man that's not even 20? He didn't dare believe, and he was unwilling to believe that it was true. At this moment, the smiles of the Zhu clan members all froze. How could this be possible? This young man is capable of refining a Grade 8 spirit sword that provides a 20% amplification. The Zhu clan's Grand Elder's pupils constricted and his face went gloomy. The Zhu clan's patriarch Zhu Rong, Zhu Qi, and the other Zhu clan elders were now completely muddled and didn't dare believe that all this was true. How could this be possible? How could this be possible? Zhu Zhao's face went gloomy when he saw this scene, and his voice had traces of unwillingness mixed within. A Grade 8 spirit sword that provides a 20% amplification? The Swallow Mountain County's county governor, Pei Yuan, squinted his eyes and had a face full of disbelief. A Grade 8 spirit sword that was refined in half an hour was capable of 20% strength amplification? Who actually was this violet-clothed youth? It was simply unbelievable. In contrast, Suemo laughed heartily in the neighboring room. This kid didn't disappoint me in the end. Refining a Grade 8 spirit sword that can amplify strength by 20% in half an hour, such natural talent in weapons refinement is virtually heaven-defying. Not only Pei Yuan and Suemo, even the husband and wife pair within the pavilion on the luxurious building were amazed. Although they were filled with confidence towards Duan Ling Tian since the beginning, when they saw this scene with their own two eyes, they couldn't help but be moved. Second Elder Zhu, what do you think now? Duan Ling Tian looked at Zhu Liang, and the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. Li Fei stood at the back and now had an excited expression. Her man had taken revenge for her grandfather. Strands of warmth arose within her heart. However, Zhu Liang seemed as if he didn't hear what Duan Ling Tian said, and he ceaselessly shook his head. Impossible. It's impossible. Obviously, he hadn't recovered from the blow he received yet. The surrounding crowd of spectators had now recovered from their shock, and without exception, they all had faces full of astonishment. F***K. A Grade 8 spirit sword that provides a 20% amplification? This violet-clothed youth is simply abnormal. He's not only abnormal, he's virtually an abnormality amongst abnormal people, a super abnormal person. Looks like the title of #1 Grade 8 weapons craftsman in Swallow Mountain County will become his. Truly unbelievable. Is he really not even 20 yet? Of course. Look at his appearance. He's obviously a young man who has just lost his immaturity. Everyone was shocked, as the scene before their eyes was completely different from the scene in their expectations. This violet-clothed youth had actually won against the Zhu clan's second elder in a life wager by weapons refinement. Moreover, he had defeated the Zhu clan's second elder with a grade 8 spirit sword that he had refined in half an hour, virtually heaven-defying. Meanwhile, the Zhu clan's second elder, Zhu Liang, had slowly recovered from his shock. However, his face had a sense of dread mixed within. No, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Zhu Liang's heart trembled, and he turned and flew off while holding the grade 8 spirit sword that Duanling Tian refined. Then he gathered with the group of Zhu clan members. This scene was something Duanling Tian had never expected. Duanling Tian's face sank, and his eyes emitted an awe-inspiring killing intent. Second Elder Zhu, are you thinking of going back on your word? For a time, the surrounding crowd emitted a burst of sighs. The dignified second elder of the Zhu clan actually went back on his word? He was willing to gamble, but unwilling to accept defeat? Zhu Liang's expression was extremely unsightly, but he felt guilty in his heart and didn't dare make a sound. Meanwhile, the Zhu clan's patriarch, Zhu Rong, stood out and looked at Duanling Tian. Young man, needless to say, your weapons refinement technique is admirable. However, second elder is significant to our Zhu clan. So no matter what, our Zhu clan can't lose him. So, for the life wager today, my Zhu clan is willing to exchange other things for the second elder's life. Other things? Duanling Tian's gaze went cold and he sneered. Sorry, I really have no need for other things. I came to have a life wager with your Zhu clan's second elder precisely for his life. Then regretfully, I'm unable to comply. Zhu Rong's face sank. Zhu Liang. Duanling Tian's cold and indifferent gaze descended onto Zhu Liang. Are you sure you want to go back on your word? Are you sure you want to bring the entire Zhu clan down with you just for the sake of your life? I'll give you a chance, take your own life right now. Otherwise, I'll annihilate your Zhu clan. Duanling Tian's voice was filled with infinite icy coldness. Wanting to go back on your word in front of him? Was that possible? Nonsense. Zhu Qi sneered. Then he looked at Duanling Tian with a face full of disdain. Kid, my big brother offered you other compensation. That's thinking highly of you. However, since you're so arrogant, then you'll get nothing. If you want to keep your life, then K off now. Is that so? Cold lights shot out in all directions from Duanling Tian's eyes, and the flames of fury in his heart had burned to the limit. He was hardly ever so angry. But today, he was completely enraged. Pei Yuan within the restaurant's room frowned and slightly disdained the Zhu clan's second elder for going back on his word. However, he didn't know this violet-clothed youth, and thus didn't plan on standing up for him. The face of Su Mo in the neighboring room sank, and he directly leaped out of the window to get down from the restaurant. Then he walked in large strides towards Duanling Tian. He wanted to let the Zhu clan members know of Duanling Tian's identity. As far as he was concerned, this Zhu clan actually daring to go back on their word before the commander of the embroidered uniform guard, Duanling Tian, was simply courting death. In the pavilion. Look, the Zhu clan is planning on relying on their strength to bully people. The beautiful woman's gaze had a sense of coldness within. Let's go over. The middle-aged man brought along the beautiful woman as he descended from the pavilion and walked towards Duanling Tian as well. The surrounding crowd sighing had never stooped. The Zhu clan is too shameless. Yeah, when this young man's grandfather wagered his life with Zhu Liang last year, Zhu Liang directly took his life after winning. Now that it's Zhu Liang's turn, he goes back on his word. Too shameless. I've decided not to spend money in the businesses under the Zhu clan in the future, even if it's just a copper coin. Me too. Even if I throw my money in the ditch, I still won't let the Zhu clan earn it. A man is nothing without his word, and the Zhu clan has indeed gone too far this time. The Zhu clan's actions now had caused public outrage. Thursday Zhu clan members, from Patriarch Zhu Rong to the elders, they all had unsightly expressions. Kid, I'll give you the time of 5 breaths to disappear before my eyes. Otherwise, not only you, even the other two people by your side will undoubtedly die. Zhu Rong's eyes went cold as he looked at Duanling Tian and threatened. Ha 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 ha. Duanling Tian couldn't help but burst out laughing as if he had heard an excellent joke when he heard what Zhu Rong said. Good. What a good Zhu clan. Duanling Tian's eyes were cold and indifferent like ice. His voice seemed as if it came from the depths of hell and was filled with gloominess. Xiong Quan. Besides Zhu Liang, don't spare a soul. Killing intent that pierced the skies arose from Duanling Tian's body, and his voice was cold and indifferent. At this moment, Duanling Tian seemed to have transformed into a devil god, a bloodthirsty devil god. Right when everyone was stupefied because of what Duanling Tian said. Yes, young master. Xiong Quan made his move. Xiong Quan's figure flashed out, and only a few people present could catch sight of him. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Continuous sword howls seemed to echo out at the same time, causing the surrounding crowd of spectators to feel a chill run down their spines. When they recovered from their shock, they instead noticed that besides Zhu Liang, who still stood there trembling with a ghastly pale face, all of the Zhu clan members were on the ground. Blood flowed like a river, and a figure that was swift like a ghost returned to Duanling Tian's side as well. Drops of blood dropped down from the 3-foot-long blade in his hand, as if transforming into red roses that were incomparably dazzling to the eye. At this moment, the surroundings were deathly silent. A few nascent soul existences were included amongst the Zhu clan members that were on the ground. Besides Zhu Zhao, the remaining people were all existences at the 9th level of the Origin Core stage. However, in the blink of an eye, they were all gone. Besides the creator of the incident, the Zhu clan's second elder, Zhu Liang, all the Zhu clan members present were dead. Sumo's body stiffened as he looked at the scene before him in a daze, and he was completely dumbfounded. That Zhu clan's grand elder, who was among the Zhu clan members that had lost their lives, was in existence at the 3rd level of the nascent soul stage. However, just like everyone else, he still wasn't able to react before he was struck down. Dead without a doubt. His gaze flickered with a slightly complicated sheen as he looked over at the violet-clothed young man with a carefree expression, and his heart trembled. Looks like I got worried for nothing. There's actually such a terrifying powerhouse by this kid's side. The pair of husband and wife that had rushed over at almost the same time as Suimo froze on the spot. Yin, that person by Duanling Tian's side? The dignified and graceful beautiful woman said, and her beautiful face that had a carefree expression since the beginning until now had a trace of surprise. I'm far inferior to him. The middle-aged man by the beautiful woman's side had a complicated expression as he sighed. The beautiful woman's eyes squinted when she heard what he said, and she completely lost her composure. She was extremely clear that her husband was in existence at the half-step void stage. She knew that someone who even her husband felt himself to be inferior to would surely be in existence at the void prying stage without a doubt. Void prying stage. In the restaurant's room, the Swallow Mountain County's county governor, Pei Yuan's, pupils constricted, and because of holding on too forcefully, the teacup within his hand transformed into a pile of fragments that scattered down onto the ground. However, he seemed to not notice in the slightest. Who the heck is this violet-clothed young man? Pei Yuan's heart trembled, and he got up and left. No matter who the violet-clothed young man was, the appearance of a void-prying stage powerhouse was already worthy of him, the county governor of Swallow Mountain County, to personally make an appearance. Duanling Tian walked step by step towards Zhu Liang. Every step he took seemed to transform in an enormous hammer that fiercely smashed onto Zhu Liang's chest, causing Zhu Liang's face to flush. Extremely deep despair arose within Zhu Liang's heart as he gazed at the violet-clothed young man before him. He never imagined that the subordinate by this violet-clothed young man's side would be so terrifying. In the blink of an eye, before he could even react to it, the young man's subordinate had killed the entire group of Zhu clan members that were present. Amongst them, there was no lack of existences stronger than him. Why did you kill them? Zhu Liang's voice lightly trembled, and he looked at Duanling Tian with an enraged expression. Why did I kill them? Duanling Tian couldn't help but laugh. Then he looked at Zhu Liang with a calm expression. I gave you a chance earlier, right? They died because they were implicated by you? Zhu Liang's figure trembled. Only now did he realize the clear words of this violet-clothed young man from before. Are you sure you want to go back on your word? Are you sure you want to bring the entire Zhu clan down with you just for the sake of your life? I'll give you a chance. Take your own life right now. Otherwise, I'll annihilate your Zhu clan. So it turned out that the violet-clothed young man wasn't deliberately mystifying himself when he said this. The young man wasn't talking nonsense. He really had the ability. Instantly, Zhu Liang's heart was filled with a bellyful of regret. It was he who'd caused the deaths of the group of Zhu clan members. Dying earlier or later was still death, but now, even though he could live on for a while longer, he had caused the Zhu clan to pay an extremely enormous price. You. Who the heck are you? Zhu Liang looked at Duanling Tian with a face full of unwillingness. When Zhu Liang finished speaking, the surrounding crowd of spectators turned their gazes onto Duanling Tian. They were similarly curious about who the heck was this young man who had a subordinate that possessed such shocking strength was. Second Elder Zhu, you don't even know who he is, and you actually dared go back on your word in front of him? Right at this moment, a voice abruptly sounded, and an aged old man moved back and forth through the crowd towards them. It was as if the old man had transformed into a slippery loach that no one was able to stop. In the blink of an eye, the old man arrived at Duanling Tian's side. Geezer. Earlier when he heard the voice, Duanling Tian felt it to be slightly familiar, and now when he saw the old man appear, Duanling Tian's gaze abruptly shone and a wide grin hung on his face. He never would have imagined that he would be able to see an old friend when he came to County City. The old man before him was no one else but precisely the former Aurora City's Alchemist Guild's guildmaster, Suemo, who he had befriended in Aurora City. At that time, Suemo had become a grade 7 alchemist under his guidance and then left Aurora City. Sumo's appearance caused quite a large stir. I recognize him. He's Vice Guild Master Su of our County City's Alchemist Guild. It's really Vice Guild Master Su. This young man seems to be well acquainted with Vice Guild Master Su and directly called him Geezer. Looks like the identity of this young man really isn't simple. The surrounding crowd of spectators all had expressions of surprise when they saw the scene before them. Suemo, a grade 7 alchemist and the Vice Guild Master of the County City's Alchemist Guild. His status within the County City was extremely special, and even the Swallow Mountain County's county governor would have to be respectful when meeting him. Zhu Liang's face went grim. It looked like his guess wasn't wrong. This violet-clothed young man's identity was indeed not simple. Suemo, your movements really are fast. Right at this moment, a pair of husband and wife that were like a match made in heaven walked over in large strides, and everywhere they passed, the crowd would move aside. It's the Swallow Mountain County's Violet Tulip Trading Company's branch president, Lin Yu. Also her husband, the Violet Tulip Trading Company's guard commander in the county city, Ji Yin. This guard commander is a void stage powerhouse like the county governor. The crowd clamored, as they had recognized the pair that walked over shoulder to shoulder. President Lin, Commander Ji, Suemo lightly smiled to the two of them. Zhu Liang only felt the sky go gloomy when he saw Lin Yu and Ji Yin appear. Oh my god, these two know this violet-clothed youth as well? Could anyone tell him who the heck this violet-clothed youth was? Duanling Tian's gaze descended onto the beautiful woman. He was slightly shocked by her beauty. Then his gaze descended onto the middle-aged man beside the beautiful woman, and with just a glance, he was able to discern that this was a half-step void stage powerhouse. Thinking of how Suemo addressed them, Duanling Tian guessed their identities. President Lin, I was just about to finish dealing with the matter and go thank you. I never expected that you and Commander Ji would come here first. Duanling Tian lightly smiled to Lin Yu and Ji Yin, and he spoke in a polite and respectful manner. Commander Duan, you're too kind. Being able to help you is Lin Yu's honor, and it is the Violet Tulip Trading Company's honor. As Lin Yu lightly smiled, her snake-like small waist started swaying, revealing infinite allure. causing one to have the impulse to forcefully pin her on the ground and ravage her. Even though his Lin Yu wasn't young, she still retained her attractiveness and was an attractive stunner. Exactly. If Commander Duan needs any help, the entire Violet Tulip Trading Company will surely do all within its power. Ji Yin said as well. Before Duan Ling Tian, this middle-aged man whose expression revealed a dignified aura lowered his head as well. Not to mention Duan Ling Tian's identity, even that powerhouse by Duan Ling Tian's side was sufficient for him to bow. Duan Ling Tian smiled as he said, President Lin and Commander Ji are too kind. Lin Chi is my friend, and you two are his seniors, thus you're naturally my seniors. In the future, don't call me Commander Duan, it's fine to directly call me by my name. This time, he was truly grateful to this pair of husband and wife. If it wasn't for them, he wouldn't have found out about the culprit that caused the death of little Fei's grandfather so quickly. Duan Ling Tian, Lin Yu, and her husband talked animatedly here, but the content of their chat instead caused a commotion in the surrounding crowd of spectators. Commander Duan? President Lin Yu and Commander Ji Yin are the highest-ranked people in charge of the Violet Tulip Trading Company's branch in Swallow Mountain County, but when they face this young man, they seem to reveal a heartfelt modesty. Even if they meet the county governor, they still would be unlikely to be like this, right? Commander Duan, Duan surnamed, and so young. Could it be that he's the commander of the embroidered uniform guard, Duan Ling Tian? The crowd burst into discussion, and before long, someone had guessed Duan Ling Tian's identity correctly. Instantly, the crowd was stirred once again. What? He's Duan Ling Tian? I should have thought of this a long time ago. Within our Crimson Sky Kingdom, besides the commander of the embroidered uniform guard, Duan Ling Tian, who else would be able to break through to the origin core stage before 20? However, I really never imagined that Commander Duan was actually a grade 8 weapons craftsman as well. To be precise, he's a grade 8 weapons craftsman that is capable of refining a grade 8 spirit weapon that provides a 20% amplification in strength. This time, the Zhu clan really bit off more than they can chew. Look at the expression of the Zhu clan's second elder. It's as unsightly can be. Now infinite regrets have probably arisen within his heart. The crowd clamored, and gaze after gaze that contained a sense of laughing at Zhu Liang's misfortunes descended onto Zhu Liang's figure. Zhu Liang's actions of going back on his words earlier had touched their bottom lines. So, no matter how tragic Zhu Liang's end was, they still wouldn't pity him in the slightest. Zhu Liang had brought all of this onto himself. Duan Ling Tian, he's Duan Ling Tian. Zhu Liang was scared out of his wits as he looked at the violet-clothed young man that was talking animatedly with Suimo, Lin Yu, and Ji Yin. And infinite regret arose within his heart. If he knew earlier that this violet-clothed young man was the commander of the embroidered uniform guard that was famous throughout Crimson Sky Kingdom, even if he was any braver, he still wouldn't dare go back on his word. He only felt a bellyful of regret as he looked at the pile of corpses beside his feet. It almost felt as if his regret would blast him into pieces. No, so many people of the clan have died for me. I must live. I must live. The desire for survival arose within Zhu Liang's heart. He glanced at Duan Ling Tian vigilantly, then his leg jerked as origin energy exploded out. He directly rushed into the crowd, desiring to flee. Wanna flee? Duan Ling Tian's gaze went cold. Humph! Coldness appeared within Xiong Quan's eyes and his body jerked. He was going to capture Zhu Liang and bring him back. It was impossible for Zhu Liang to flee before him. However, Xiong Quan hadn't even rushed into the crowd when he noticed a figure that was like a great rock whistling over, and he had Zhu Liang in his hand. The person that appeared now was a middle-aged man in luxurious clothing and with an imposing appearance. County Governor. Suimo was slightly surprised when he saw the person that had arrived. The Swallow Mountain County's county governor? Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto the middle-aged man in luxurious clothing as well. Swallow Mountain County's county governor? Pei San's father? Duan Ling Tian sized up the middle-aged man in luxurious clothing with interest. Commander Duan. Pei Yuan warmly greeted Duan Ling Tian. Then he greeted Suimo, Lin Yu, and Ji Yin. In the next moment, his hand descended and directly crippled Zhu Liang's dantian. Pei Yuan. Instantly, Zhu Liang exclaimed out in grief, and his eyes were crimson as he stared angrily at Pei Yuan. Pei Yuan instead paid no attention to Zhu Liang, and he casually threw Zhu Liang beneath Duan Ling Tian's feet. Commander Duan, you've come to my Swallow Mountain County's county city for the first time. Consider this untrustworthy scum as my meeting gift to you. Even though he wouldn't have been able to flee even if I didn't make a move. As he finished speaking, Pei Yuan's gaze descended onto Xiong Quan, who was beside Duan Ling Tian, and he was slightly afraid. Then thank you, County Governor Pei. Duan Ling Tian nodded with a smile to Pei Yuan, then raised his leg before fiercely stomping on Zhu Liang's body. Bang! Instantly, Zhu Liang's body was stomped into the ground. Little Fei. Duan Ling Tian called Li Fei over and seized back the Grade 8 Spirit Sword in Zhu Liang's hand. Then he passed it to Li Fei, who had walked over in large strides. No, don't. After Zhu Liang noticed Li Fei's beautiful eyes emitting killing intent, coldness arose within his heart, and he hurriedly shouted out in alarm. Whoosh! Li Fei's gaze was cold as she lifted her hand. Her origin energy bloomed out. Then the sword in her hand descended to pierce through Zhu Liang's body, impaling Zhu Liang's body to the ground. Blood splattered all around, dazzling and resplendent. After seeing Zhu Liang breath his last breath, the hatred on Li Fei's face finally vanished. But when she recalled her grandfather, she felt a burst of sadness and threw herself into Duan Ling Tian's embrace as she sobbed without restraint. It's all right. You've taken revenge for grandfather. If grandfather is aware in the afterworld, he will be able to rest in peace. Duan Ling Tian lightly patted Li Fei's back and consoled her in a gentle voice. Meanwhile, the people present came to a sudden understanding. So it turned out that Duan Ling Tian wasn't taking revenge for his own grandfather, and instead was taking revenge for the grandfather of his girlfriend. What a beautiful girl. It's the first time I've seen such an unrivaled beauty in my lifetime. I'm afraid only a talent such as Commander Duan would deserve her. The surrounding crowd of spectators was stirred once again. Traces of admiration arose within their hearts towards Duan Ling Tian's actions of getting enraged because of his girlfriend and assisting her in seeking revenge. A good man ought to be like Commander Duan of the Embroidered Uniform Guard, destroying the Zhu clan in rage for the sake of his girlfriend. Commander Duan, you've come over from a great distance. No matter what, I, this county governor of the Swallow Mountain County, must perform the duties of a host. I hope Commander Duan can do me the honor and come to my county governor's estate. Pei Yuan was an intelligent person, so only after Duan Ling Tian finished consoling Li Fei did he invite Duan Ling Tian. County Governor Pei, we husband and wife intend to invite Commander Duan to get together as well. Ji Yin smiled lightly. Even though Pei Yuan was the county governor of Swallow Mountain County, he didn't care in the slightest, as Pei Yuan was only a half-step void stage martial artist like him. Suma laughed heartily when he saw Pei Yuan and Ji Yin fighting over Duan Ling Tian. Regardless of where this kid goes, this old man will follow him to join in the fun and have a meal. The two of you won't mind, right? Vice Guildmaster Su, you're kidding. It's an honor, Pei Yuan and Ji Yin said, at almost the exact same time. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian had already put away all the spatial rings of the Zhu clan members, as well as those 2 Grade 8 spirit swords. He had noticed as well that Pei Yuan and Ji Yin were looking at him, waiting for him to make a decision. County Governor Pei, I'll remember your favor from today. However, Commander Ji is my senior, and as a junior, I don't dare disobey my senior. So I hope County Governor Pei can forgive me. Duan Ling Tian politely refused Pei Yuan. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but have wicked thoughts in his heart. If this Pei Yuan knew that the culprit who crippled the arm of his son, Pei San, was before him, I wonder what sort of expression he would have. Pei Yuan was the county governor of Swallow Mountain County after all, so he wasn't unhappy in the slightest when refused by Duan Ling Tian, but a smile still remained on his face. Then Pei Yuan won't force you. However, the door to my county governor's estate is always open for Commander Duan. No matter when Commander Duan arrives, the county governor's estate will always treat Commander Duan as an honored guest. Thank you, County Governor Pei. Duan Ling Tian nodded. This Pei Yuan was far superior to Pei San, as expected of a governor of a county. Then Pei Yuan will take his leave, Pei Yuan said to Duan Ling Tian before leaving. Arriving like the wind, leaving like the wind, incomparably elegant and unrestrained. Along with the departure of Duan Ling Tian's group, the crowd that was gathered at the trade market at the center of the city finally dispersed. Moreover, the incident from today was bound to be on the mouths of the county city residents for a long time from now. Besides that, the Zhu clan had completely gone into a decline. Yu clan estate. Zhu clan. The Yu clan's patriarch, Yu Dian, had a complicated gaze. A great clan whose strength was not one bit inferior to his Yu clan had its foundation completely destroyed by a young man that was not even 20. That Duan Ling Tian. Perhaps I shouldn't have allowed second brother and grand elder to seek revenge from him. Now second brother and grand elder have died, and even the supreme elder who headed to the imperial city later on has completely vanished. He is surely dead. Yu Dian's face was filled with bitterness. Presently, the people of the county city only knew that Duan Ling Tian had destroyed the Zhu clan. But only he knew that not only did Duan Ling Tian destroy the Zhu clan, but also his Yu clan. Luckily, the news of the disappearance of a few Yu clan nascent soul martial artists was locked down by him. Otherwise, the Yu clan probably would have ceased to exist long ago. Even if it was able to hold on with its last breath, it would be impossible for the Yu clan to have its current status. Of course, even though he knew that the cause of all this was Duan Ling Tian, Yu Jian didn't dare have any thoughts of revenge. What a joke. Not to mention Duan Ling Tian's identity, just with Duan Ling Tian's web of contacts, any power taken out at random would be sufficient to annihilate his Yu clan. Duan Ling Tian is virtually the bane of my Yu clan, Yu Dian muttered, with a voice that was filled with bitterness. Agarwood Restaurant. As a business of the Violet Tulip Trading Company in the county city, this Agarwood restaurant was many times more luxurious than the Agarwood restaurant in Duan Ling Tian's hometown, Fresh Breeze Town. Presently, within the pavilion at the top floor of the Agarwood restaurant, 5 people sat around the table. Only one person stood there, and that was Xiong Quan, who stood behind Duan Ling Tian. Xiong Quan stood there, unmoving like a mountain. However, at this moment, besides Duan Ling Tian and Li Fei, Suimo, Lin Yu, and Ji Yin were all slightly uneasy. Ji Yin glanced at Xiong Quan as he said to Duan Ling Tian, "Commander Duan, please let this lord sit down." Since an unknown time, a bitter smile had appeared on the corners of his mouth. A dignified void-prying stage powerhouse stood at the side while he sat here. This made him feel very uneasy. Lin Yu and Suimo looked at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian discerned the uneasiness of the three, and he shook his head with a smile. "Xiong Quan, sit down." "Yes, young master." Xiong Quan respectfully replied, then sat down. Only now did Ji Yin heave a sigh of relief. In next to no time, their food had arrived, and it was all delicious delicacies and some good wine. Little sister Li Fei, as expected of one of the 3 great beauties of Aurora City, "You're really beautiful." Lin Yu looked at Li Fei and lightly smiled. Li Fei's beautiful face was slightly red, and she seemed slightly embarrassed. "President Lin, you're beautiful as well." At this side, the 2 women whispered in discussion. On the other side, Duan Ling Tian was instead chatting with Ji Yin and Suimo. "Kid, your choice that time wasn't wrong. Luckily, you didn't follow me to the Alchemist Guild that year. Otherwise, it would virtually be burying your talents. You directed the armies of our Crimson Sky Kingdom to show our power and prestige in the battle at the northwest borders. Even I, this old man, can't help but admire you." After drinking down a few cups of wine, Suimo was slightly excited. "Exactly. The battle was simply perfect. Sometimes I even think that if I had participated in the battle, how my blood would boil from that." Ji Yin agreed deeply. As the guard commander of the Violet Tulip Trading Company, he was an iron-blooded man in heart. Duan Ling Tian only lightly smiled when he heard what they said. Ji Yao looked more highly upon Duan Ling Tian when he saw Duan Ling Tian's reaction. "Commander Duan, to a certain extent, you can already be considered to be standing at the peak of the Crimson Sky Kingdom. What plans do you have for the future? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed, and a trace of yearning flashed within. Truthfully speaking, I returned to the Swallow Mountain County this time precisely for saying my farewells. After I've dealt with everything here, I won't stay long in the Imperial City and will leave the Crimson Sky Kingdom to head to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. Suemo and Ji Yin weren't surprised at Duan Ling Tian's decision. As with Duan Ling Tian's strength and natural talent, staying in the Crimson Sky Kingdom would only obstruct his progress. Duan Ling Tian didn't belong to the Crimson Sky Kingdom, and the Crimson Sky Kingdom couldn't hold him either. Dragons, it was impossible for them to forever stay within the sea. They would eventually leap out of the sea and soar the 9 heavens. Have you chose which sect are to enter? Ji Yin asked. As far as he was concerned, since Duan Ling Tian was heading to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Duan Ling Tian would surely have to find a sect to enter. After all, only within those sects would Duan Ling Tian obtain better improvement. A sect was the stage on which experts fought for supremacy. It was a good jumping board and was the best choice for a genius in the martial Dao like Duan Ling Tian. I haven't. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. His knowledge of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom was merely restricted to the Boundless Sect and the Black Fiend Sect. The Boundless Sect was the sect Xiong Quan used to be from. The Black Fiend Sect was the sect that annihilated the Boundless Sect. A trace of coldness flashed within the depths of Duan Ling Tian's eyes when he recalled the Black Fiend Sect. That year, the scene within Misty Forest was something he wouldn't forget in his lifetime. Kid, remember that in front of me, you're just an ant. If I desired to kill you, it would be no different than killing an ant. I disdain to kill you. This was what the Black Fiend Sect's Void Stage powerhouse, Sun Rue, said to him. Words that trampled upon his pride. At that time, just a little bit more and he would have died at Sun Rue's hands. He wouldn't forget that suffocating feeling in his lifetime. Disdain? Traces of rage arose within Duan Ling Tian's heart. Sun Rue, in the near future, I'll surely make you regret what you said that day. Coldness flashed within Duan Ling Tian's eyes, yet Ji Yin and Suemo didn't notice. Ji Yin lightly smiled. With Commander Duan's natural talent, once you arrive at the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, even entering one of the top sects will be extremely easy. Exactly. Suemo nodded, and he looked at Duan Ling Tian with a serious expression. In the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdoms, sects stand in great numbers. Once you've arrived at the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, make sure to choose between one of the 5 great sects of Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. This will have a great effect on your future achievements. Duan Ling Tian nodded. He thought so as well. The best places for cultivation within the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom were held within the hands of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom's Imperial family and the 5 great sections. When he found out about this from Xiong Quan, he made a plan in his heart. He planned to choose one of the 5 great sects in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom and enter it. After their meal, the sun had set in the west. Duan Ling Tian's group of 3 stayed in an inn that Lin Yu arranged for them, and he only left on the next day to return to Aurora City. After spending another 7 days traveling, Duan Ling Tian's group of 3 returned to Aurora City. Up and down, coupled with the day spent in the county city, they had spent an entire half-month. Get ready, we're leaving in 2 days. Duan Ling Tian set the date of departure. At dawn the next day, Duan Ling Tian brought Ku Er and Li Fei out to the Shao clan to see Luo Qian, the sister of Luo Cheng, Duan Ling Tian's friend from the Iron Blood Army's genius camp long ago. Compared to that time, Luo Qian's complexion was much better, and she had completely merged into the Shao clan. Duan Ling Tian, you're so impressive now, the commander of the embroidered uniform guard. Xiao Lan and Xiao Yun were both with Luo Qian right now. Xiao Yun smiled as she looked at Duan Ling Tian and blinked her pretty eyes. Xiao Yun, the daughter of the Shao clan's patriarch. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. Subsequently, his gaze descended onto Xiao Lan. Xiao Yu asked me to tell you that everything is fine with him. Xiao Lan nodded, and there seemed to be a trace of embarrassment mixed within her beautiful eyes. However, when her gaze inadvertently descended onto the 2 girls by Duan Ling Tian's side, her gaze became slightly dim, and a bitterness that was difficult to notice appeared on the corners of her mouth. I came here this time to say my farewells to all of you. After Duanling Tian told them of his reason for arriving here, they casually chatted for some time. Then Duanling Tian left with Ku Er and Li Fei. He had naturally noticed Xiaolan's gaze. He never expected that after 2 years had passed, Xiaolan still hadn't let go. Let fate decide. Duanling Tian sighed in his heart. Xiaolan only withdrew her gaze after seeing Duanling Tian's group of 3 disappear into the distance, and she faintly sighed. She originally thought that once he left, she could forget him. But who knew that news of him would spread to her one after the other, plucking at her heartstrings and causing her to be immersed within, unable to free herself. But she knew that with his current status and identity, he was bound to slowly grow farther and farther away from her. However, in her heart, there was always a slight unwillingness. Big Sister Lan, some things have to be fought for by yourself. Once it passes you by, it will be too late to regret. Luo Qian knew Xiaolan's thoughts and couldn't stop herself from advising her. Yeah, Big Sister Lan, once you let a man like Duanling Tian pass you by, he'll be gone forever, Xiaoyun said as well. Xiaolan's beautiful eyes became more and more steadfast when she heard what the two said. Aya. Duanling Tian and the 2 girls had only just left Xiao Clan estate when he noticed Li Fei's hand descend onto his waist. Then she fiercely twisted, causing him to be unable to help himself from crying out. Little Fei, you're murdering your husband. Who asked you to stare at Xiaolan? Li Fei grunted, with a tone that was filled with jealousy. Young master, the way Miss Xiaolan looks at you is very similar to how Big Sister Fei Fei looks at you. She couldn't have fallen for you as well, right? Ku Er blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at Duanling Tian, causing a bitter smile to appear on the corners of his mouth. When did this little girl Ku Er learn to add oil to the fire? Look, even little sister Ku Er noticed. Li Fei pouted. Speak, have you fallen for Xiaolan as well? No, absolutely not. Duanling Tian hurriedly denied. Wouldn't admitting now be looking for trouble? Subsequently, Duanling Tian and the 2 girls returned to the Li clan estate. Then he called Li Xian, Lin Zhua, and Lin Qi to have a meal together as a form of farewell. During the feast, he specially introduced Li Xian to Lin Zhua and Lin Qi. Lin Zhua took up his wine cup and said to Duanling Tian, after you leave this time, I wonder when we can gather again. Today, we won't leave until we're drunk. Exactly, come. Cheers. Lin Qi said as well. During the course of the meal, Li Xian had become acquainted with Lin Zhua and Lin Qi. Duanling Tian let out a long breath of relief. When they returned to the Li clan estate, Li Xian said sincerely, Boss, thank you. What are you thanking me for? Duanling Tian asked, with a smile. Could it be that this fatty noticed something? Li Xian laughed slyly. Boss, I know you specially introduced Lin Zhua and Lin Qi to me. You don't have to act. Duanling Tian shook his head and smiled. He never thought that this fatty would have noticed. The next day, Duanling Tian's family and Xiong Quan had just left the Li clan estate when they saw the 3 girls that were waiting at the gate. Xiaolan, Xiaoyun, and Luo Qian. What are all of you? Duanling Tian noticed that Xiaolan held a travel bag in her hand, and a bad premonition arose within his heart. As expected, Li Fei's burning gaze seemed as if it could light Duanling Tian ablaze. Duanling Tian looked at Xiaolan and asked curiously, Xiaolan, what are you doing here? Duanling Tian, I want to visit my brother in the imperial city. Can you bring me along? As Xiaolan spoke, her extremely beautiful face blushed slightly, making her look enchanting and moving, and causing one to have the urge to press their lips on her and fiercely kiss her. Li Rose spurred her horse to stop nearby, and the corners of her mouth curled into a smile. It looked like the charm of her son was rather huge. In terms of appearance, this girl was not inferior to her 2 future daughters-in-law in the slightest. If it was possible, she didn't mind having one more daughter-in-law that was so beautiful. Women were against their own husbands having many women, but when it came to their own sons, they instead earnestly wished for them to fully enjoy having many wives. At that time, she could carry her grandsons and granddaughters until her hands got weak. Duanling Tian was slightly hesitant. Little Fei's gaze was too fierce. In the end, it was Li Ro who helped Duan Ling Tian out of the predicament. She looked at Xiao Lan and lightly smiled. You're Xiao Lan, right? Li Ro had heard of the three great beauties of that were renowned throughout Aurora City. Xiao Lan's gaze descended onto Li Ro's figure, and she lightly nodded. She was slightly surprised in her heart. This is Duan Ling Tian's mother? She looks so young. Seeing Xiao Lan slightly hesitant and seeming to not know how to address her, Li Ro lightly smiled. You can follow Ku Er and Fei and call me Aunt Ro. Aunt Ro. Xiao Lan lightly nodded, and her beautiful face was red to the point that it looked like blood would drip out of it. Your brother is a good friend of Tian's. Since you want to go see your brother, then follow us. Under Li Ro's instruction, Xiao Lan and Li Ro rode the same Fergana horse. Duan Ling Tian heaved a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, Li Fei spurred her horse to Duan Ling Tian's side and glanced at him with a spurious smile on her face. Scoundrel, you're extremely happy now, right? Yes, Duan Ling Tian subconsciously answered. When he noticed Li Fei's spurious smile, he hurriedly shook his head. No, no. Their group once again started their journey. From Aurora City to the Imperial City, they spent another 2 months. After entering the Imperial City inner city, Duan Ling Tian said to Xiao Lan, follow us home first. I'll go look for your brother in a while and ask him to come get you. Xiao Lan nodded, and her pair of beautiful and moving eyes revealed a trace of dejection. Li Ro noticed Xiao Lan's dejected gaze and lightly smiled as she said, Lan, come often and visit Aunt Ro. Yes, Aunt Ro. Xiao Lan's gaze lit up once again. After returning to his courtyard house, Duan Ling Tian went to Paladin Academy and found Xiao Yu. After he heard that his sister had come to the Imperial City, Xiao Yu couldn't help but be stupefied. Why has she come? Duan Ling Tian shrugged. She said she wanted to visit you. Xiao Yu laughed bitterly. Find him? He didn't believe it. However, since his sister had come, it naturally wasn't good for him to trouble Duan Ling Tian. So he and Xiao Sun followed Duan Ling Tian to arrive at Duan Ling Tian's house. It was the first time that both Xiao Yu and Xiao Sun came to Duan Ling Tian's house. Brother. A trace of a smile that could charm all living beings appeared on Xiao Lan's face when she saw Xiao Yu. Xiao Sun, who followed beside Xiao Yu, was completely dumbstruck. This is Xiao Yu's little sister? As expected, she's a beauty of the same level as Princess Bai Yao. In next to no time, when Xiao Sun saw Ku Er and Li Fei, who had walked out from within the house, he was dumbstruck once more. When did beauties become so plenty? In terms of appearance, the two girls that walked out right now weren't inferior to Xiao Yu's little sister and Princess Bai Yao in the slightest. Xiao Sun suddenly felt that he had probably used all his chances of seeing beauties in this lifetime. When he saw the two girls that had just come out hold Duan Ling Tian's arms from left and right, he knew that they were Duan Ling Tian's women, and for a moment, only a sheen of jealousy and envy remained within his eyes. As the saying goes, a friend's wife is out of bounds, so he hurriedly withdrew his gaze and once again moved it onto Xiao Lan. I won't look at my friend's women, but looking at Xiao Yu's little sister should be fine, right? In next to no time, he was dumbstruck again. He noticed that after Xiao Lan greeted Xiao Yu, her gaze never left Duan Ling Tian's figure, seeming to have been rooted on Duan Ling Tian's body. He could only look at Duan Ling Tian as well. Duan Ling Tian's fortune and romance caused Xiao Sun to feel admiration toward him. Xiao Sun. Duan Ling Tian didn't know of Xiao Sun's current thoughts. He withdrew a brush and paper, then he wrote down a pile of materials. Ask your Xiao clan's patriarch to help me gather these materials. In a month, pass these materials to me, and at that time I'll pay you. 1 month from now was also the time Duan Ling Tian intended to leave the Crimson Sky Kingdom and head to the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. He gave himself a month to use to gather various materials for weapons refinement, pill refinement, and inscribing. No problem. Xiao Sun received the piece of paper from Duan Ling Tian and nodded. With Duan Ling Tian's current identity and status, their Xiao clan's patriarch wouldn't refuse Duan Ling Tian's request.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.